Hey, welcome back to Mike's Trains. So in this part of the setup here that we're doing, as you can see, I finished all the cork work here is all done. I actually trimmed this back a little tighter to the track on this crossover. So now this is exactly how it's going to fit, but before I lay this in, I want to get this track here up to the wall in the back over there where the mirror is going to be. So in order to do that, I need to put the road bed in. Now I've already sanded down this edge right here of the cork, so it's perfectly even with this cork, so it'll make a nice transition. So I know where the mirror is going to be, and I know where I need the rail to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take I have a small speed square here, and we're going to go down in the back here. So we want to get this to go from here to beside the road right in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure over with the square. We're going to go over about, so there's the edge of the road, and I'm going to go about 2 inches back from that. So we're going to measure it right there. So right there will be the center. I think we'll go even less. So the edge of the road is here. We'll go 1.5 inches right there. So we'll put our square to the wall, into the track, because I want the mirror, the track to come square into the mirror. So this is our center line right there. That's where the center line of the road bed has to go. And we're going to take this off of here like this, and we're going to bring this around on a curve that's going to match and line up to, kind of line up into there like that, and that should be enough to get a curve going into that, and then we'll bring it straight into the wall. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put some of the same gray caulk we've used on this other, on the other cork. We're going to use the same stuff, and we're going to get a piece that's longer than what we need. So this is a piece of the strip cork right here. So this is longer than I need. Okay, and I'm going to coat the back with a layer of caulk. So now we're going to take the beveled edge, since I'm doing the one side, I'm doing the outside, and I'm going to put this straight to the wall here. I'm going to cover that mark like this. And then we're going to bring this around into here. I think we're going to need to pull this out of here. Alright, and then we'll just drop another couple weights on that and fit that right back together. I like using the caulk like this. I know you can drop some nails in there, you can do whatever you want to hold it down, and it all works fairly well. Personally, I'd rather use the weights and the caulk as a glue. Just my own preference. Okay, so now we'll just let that sit and dry. And that's it for the strip cork right there. Now, Now we need to figure out where the ladder is going to go. Okay, so all of our road bed here is done on this side, and we're ready to attach track to the to this crossover and go out into here. I added in the joint compound here to finish this road here. It just needs to be trimmed up and sanded a little bit, and then that'll be complete. Now we can move on to the actual ladder and the staging tracks for the actual train station. And that's over here. Now, I was having a bit of a hard time getting this all laid in right, and I did it off camera because I was having a hard time. And it's all due to something that I totally overlooked and didn't even consider as being a problem, but it ended up being. And let me show you what that is. Okay, so on this side of the yard, I have over here, I have a turnout on the main line, okay? And then off that turnout, right here, I have another turnout in, and this turnout here will go into the yard where the roundhouse is going to go in the turntable. And then the rest of the ladder comes up this way to go to the train station and the staging tracks for the train station. Now, what I didn't take into consideration was the angle that this runs at, okay? Never even considered it, that this side, because everything comes off of a turnout, it runs at a specific angle. And when you go on to the other side, we have that 60-degree crossover down at this end, and the angle is different, okay? And it never even occurred to me that that was going to be a problem. So I was originally thinking that I could set this side of the yard and just run it across, and it would just automatically line up with the opposite side. But because they're at different angles, it changes how everything comes together. So this side here is the important side, because it also ties to the roundhouse and everything else, which will be over here. So I can't really mess with that too much. Now the other side, on the other hand, I have that 30-degree crossover in there, and in order to place that, it's at a different angle than the other side. So I couldn't. The tracks don't run in the same way, as you can see. They're not curves as much as the other side to come into there. And I hooked these up. These are all flex track, and they sort of have a curve to them up here. But what's going to happen is these are actually going to get pulled down like this, so that they're going to run in a straight line. And then I'll set the first one and run my way up. So that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to get these tracks all put in, and I want to get this crossover glued down and all of that stuff. And I'll do a little bit online and the rest on video. So I'll do a little bit on the video, and then I'm going to do the rest off. Only because it's, you know, I don't want to bore everybody with it, and the process is all the same. Once I do one, the rest all get done the same. So let me get my stuff together, and we'll start marking this up and getting everything glued down the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so here is what we're gonna do. Let's back this up a little bit, like this. So we're gonna pull out that curve that's in there. So what I'm going to do is I have a weight here, and I'm going to pull this down right pretty much where I want it. we're going to wait here to hold it in place. Okay, and then I'm going to mark the first part of this over here. Mark on each side of the rail, and then I'm going to come over to the other side and I'm going to put another mark like that. And then we'll take this off. Now there's probably easier ways to do this, but I'm kind of liking this way here. I'm going to unhook this track and I'm going to move it up out of the way, and I'm just going to draw a line and connect the two marks. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little bit of caulk, the same gray caulk we've been using, and I'm going to run a layer of it right across this here, and then I'm gonna run some underneath this end over here. I'm gonna lift all this stuff back here, and I'm gonna spread a little bit of caulk underneath everything, and then I'm gonna weight down this whole section. And then once that sits for a little bit, we can pull the weights off and move up to the next one. I'm probably making this harder than I need to, but I feel that that's how I want to do it. And we'll see what happens. And I'm just going to take this and line it up to the back line on here, because I know that's a straight line. And then we need to put some weights on top of that. So I think we can use our same stick here and lay that on top. Like that, and we'll add a couple more weights across just to make sure that that's going to stay down. Alright, so now we'll let that sit. We'll give that an hour to set up. And then we'll come back and we'll do some more. So the next part that I want to get glued in after this is we're going to work from this first line all the way across. So now that's all glued in and weighted, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do the next part I want to do is this crossover here. We're going to get this all glued in so that it can't lift up any longer. We'll get that taken care of. And then I have some things I need to do for these turnouts before I glue all this in. I want to drill holes because eventually I want to have tortoise switches in here. So I need to drill holes under each of these controls all the way around. So at least the holes are there, and when I get around to adding the switch motors, I just have to run the switch underneath and do it. I should have done it for these. Now these are going to be a pain to do later because I'll have to measure out and figure out from underneath where that hole needs to be. It's not impossible, but it's more work than I really wanted to be doing. But that's, you know, that's me. I'm in a hurry, got to get things done. So that's what happens. So if you're doing, you know, tortoise switches or any kind of remote switching, you want to take care of those holes, the holes, access holes that you need to put up from underneath before you lay down all your track. Alright, so I've gotten these two sets of rail glued in here. So this one's done and this one's done. And I did the second one, I just measured up. I wanted big spaces between these because the train station is going in here and I need these spaces to accommodate the structures that are going to go underneath the train station. So that's why they're spread like this. But they are all glued in now, and I have two more to go. And what I'll do, the same way I did this one off of this one is I measure up from this rail to this rail, and that should be 3 inches. Yeah. So from this outside rail to this rail here, this one to this one, I have 3 inches, and I'll do the same from this rail to this rail, and I'll space it kind of like that, and that one will get glued in, and then the last one is going to be closer. I want it to be something like that, but I also want to put a couple of turnouts into this last rail here. We'll have one, just going to kind of go like this in here, and then the other one will come in here. This one, this back one, is going to go into the service area way over there, and then this one here is going to come down into this area over here. So I'll have a turnout up here, and that's going to come into a service area. Well, I don't know about a service area, but it's going to come into another area in here, and I want to put some sort of a, whether it be a small freight terminal of some sort or a baggage, you know, unloading area. I don't know what yet, but something's going to go into this area. And off this turnout is the siding that's going to come down off of that. And then that'll complete this whole train yard. I'm not going to do any more video on setting the tracks. I mean, I've done enough already, I think, that you kind of get the idea. All of this down here is all glued in. And again, all I did was lay a thin layer of caulk, set the rails on top, and then throw weight on top of that until it dries. And that's really solid in there. It's not going anywhere. And then I did actually go back before I set these in, and I marked off where these turnout controls are, and I pulled this out and I drilled a 1/4 inch hole right beneath each one of these so that I can later on put switch motors up in there, and I don't have to disturb any of the tracks. So all of these have the hole already drilled in, and I'll do the same at the other side of the yard. And then I'm ready for switch motors whenever I need to. I mean, it's going to be a lot of switch motors, probably 13 or 14 switch motors, so I'm not going to be doing those for a while yet. But the idea is to eventually add those in there. So this is what we're looking at, and there you go. And then there's that end down there is going to be the service facility, and that's where my turntable is going to go. And I have a roundhouse that I've already gotten, and we'll talk about that end once I have this side all done. The next thing to do in the next video, we'll talk a little bit more about these mirrors. And as you can see, I've already got this road bed set in, and I just set a piece of track up to it just to see how that was going to look. And you can see how the road over here is going back and around the trees. Once that's painted, it'll all look, you know, pretty good. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that next time, and we'll get into that a little deeper. And I'm going to get that mirror all set in there, and then that'll be done along with this track here that's going to go in here. So with all that being said, I think that's the end of this video. So until next time, happy modeling!